All right, we're back now with more of our breaking news. We're going to keep an eye on that shooting in Washington State where 4 people are dead, but also breaking news, of course, in Charlotte, where the family of Keith Lamont Scott releasing cell phone video of his deadly encounter with Charlotte police. They say they're hoping for truth and transparency in this case. Let's discuss now with CNN political commentator Bakari Sellers, a former member of the South Carolina House of Representatives, and legal analyst Laura Coates, a former federal prosecutor. Bakari Sellers, to you first, what are you hearing from people in the community? You've been out there on the streets about this new cell phone video released by the family today.
Well, it ratcheted up the distrust. I can tell you that much. I mean, I think it's a problem that the chief of police and also the mayor have proven to be incompetent, have proven to be hiding the ball at best. And what you see is protesters out there just fighting for justice. And there's not a lot of trust in the system.
Mm-hmm. Incompetent, those are harsh words. Laura, would you say, considering the actions of these, that they're incompetent, the police chief and the mayor?
You know, I don't know that they're incompetent. I think what they are doing is punting in a way that's making people feel distrustful. I mean, remember, the police chief a few days ago said he had no intention of ever handing over this police footage. And he gave as a basis the fact that, look, you don't want to view the last moments of somebody's life. It would not be appropriate to do so. And then he changed his tune because the video was inconclusive. And then he came out today to say, look, I would show you the video, but now it's in the hands of the North Carolina Bureau of Investigators. And so what you have is this constant punting of the ball, and people feel as though they're getting the runaround. And they obviously are justified in feeling that way. But it is true that there are some people who it's changing hands as an investigation. But I don't think you should go as far as to say they're incompetent, but there certainly is cause for mistrust.
Well, he's on the ground, and that's your assessment. I think is probably the assessment of the people there on the ground, because they're obviously very frustrated. And to Bakari's point, stand by Bakari. To Bakari's point, he said that it creates more questions, right? And it's inflamed people because, and I think you say, you believe that because it looks like it favors the police officers.
It does. And what, you know, when you're a prosecutor and you have the role of using a grand jury, for example, you are often accused of being able to indict a ham sandwich. Why? Because you can curate and selectively decide what goes before your grand jury and make sure that your initial conclusion that there is a guilt to be found will be found. Well, the officers here have been releasing information. They had the narrative given by the police chief that essentially was at odds with the family's rendition of what happened. And you had releasing of things like, oh, by the way, we found a gun. Oh, by the way, it had DNA. Oh, by the way, it had blood on it, et cetera. And so what you have now is when the video is actually released, you have set up circumstances where there's a foregone conclusion that will support one narrative over the other. And that's not fair. And that's not what is supposed to happen in a transparent system.
Yeah, Bakari, I cut you off. Sorry, go ahead.
No, I mean, when you walk and you talk to the protesters, and when I go back to them saying that it's incompetence or them saying that, you know, it's distrust, when you talk to the protesters, they say, well, you know, we haven't seen the mayor out here in the streets. They say, oh, well, the police chief has now stated that, you know, that it was in the hands of somebody else, and then that agency says, no, it's in the hands of the Charlotte Police Department. They say, oh, we won't release the video, but we'll show you somehow that, you know, Channel 9 gets a still shot of this gun and the police confirm that it's a quote-unquote gun. I mean, people out here, I mean, it's very simple, Don. I mean, people want justice. They want to know what happened to Mr. Scott. They do not believe what happened. They saw what happened in Tulsa where the police lied. They saw what happened in Charleston where the officer lied, and you know, it would be a lot easier. I think that the mayor and the chief of police could save their city and save their city a lot of drama just by being transparent.
And you know, if I could add, Bakari, I agree with you in that respect. And one thing that makes people raise their eyebrow at the police department is this. Well, there was video footage that was released. I don't know if it was police, but it was video that was released that helped the officers arrest and identify a suspect in the death of the young man who was killed, a civilian in the protest a few days ago. It took only 2 days to be able to resolve that issue, to interview all the witnesses they needed to interview. And suddenly, now that can't happen in a situation where it's not a civilian suspect, but an officer suspect. And so I think people are seeing this hypocrisy when you line them up together. Now, I've also heard, I think you talked more earlier on the ground, people are now so distrustful as to believe that the death of that young man, I believe his name is Jonathan Carr, was at the hands of an officer. And that is fueled largely by this distrust. Whether it's true or not, I don't have any indication. But that's how far we've gone in the distrust that could be reshaped if you had transparency.
All right, I need you both to stand by. Thank you very much.